Every one of us has a car that we have not gotten into yet. No, not a literal car. The thing, the decision, the leap, the step that has been sitting right there, waiting for us to feel ready. And here's what I know about that car. You are never going to feel ready. The nerves are going to be there regardless. The not knowing is going to be there regardless. The only variable is whether you get in. Thank you for being here. This is This Tree and Me. I'm Corey J. Riggs. This is the place where self-leadership gets built through story, reflection, and real conversation. And the LAF method, listen, allow, follow, is how we do that. I hope this resonates with you. If it does, please share, bring others along. Let's build the community. Let's build the conversation. Also, if you haven't subscribed already, please go check. Hit that button for me. It helps the channel. It helps us grow. It helps us keep going and keep growing. Thank you all again for being here. Now let's get into it. My sister said something to me when I arrived in Oklahoma City after leaving Tulsa. She said, "I can't believe it's already here." And I laughed because I felt the exact same way. All the planning, all the preparation, all the months of building toward that moment. And when it finally arrived, it still felt like, really already? But here's what matters the most about that moment. It still took me getting into that car and leaving. The planning did not do that. The preparation did not do that. The months of building towards it did not do that. Getting in the car did it. And that is what this episode is all about. Here's something we're sitting with. Every significant threshold I have ever crossed felt exactly the same from the inside. The very first time that I ever hit record on the very first episode of this podcast, the very first content that I posted on social media for This Tree and Me, the night that I stood up at the Gypsy in front of a room full of strangers and performed my little short story, the morning that I pulled out of Tulsa, and the first morning that I woke up in a place that I had never been before, with nothing familiar around me. Same nerves, same not knowing, and the same voice saying, "Are you sure about this? Do you have what it takes? What if it doesn't work?" Every single time. And every single time, the only thing that made that voice quieter was doing the thing anyway. Not silencing the voice, not conquering it, and not figuring out how to make it go away first. Doing the thing anyway. That is the pattern. That is the only pattern that has ever worked. And it works every time. Because the doing build something that the planning can never do. The muscle of going. Let's step away for a minute. Think about the last threshold that you crossed, that thing you were scared to do but did anyway. Do you remember how it felt right before? Hold that feeling. Now think about the car you haven't gotten into yet. That feeling is going to be there too. It is always there. The question is never whether the feeling shows up. It is whether you get in anyway. Every threshold feels the same from the inside. The only difference is whether you cross it. That departure morning caught up with me very fast. And the main reason it caught up because I had, again, I've been thinking about it and preparing for it for months. Well, the closer I got, the emptier the house got. The little bit that I kept, I purged my entire life. I gave away everything. I took a lot of my nice clothes, some electronics, and some personal effects from the family, put it in a small storage unit. That's all I kept besides what I brought with me. So all the mornings leading up to that departure day, it started getting busier and busier and busier. The mornings, the meditation, the journaling. I was still doing my meditation. I wasn't journaling as much. I didn't blog. I didn't social media content. I didn't post a podcast episode for several weeks. I was getting ready. There was so much that I had to do. And there's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of nerves. And then all of a sudden that departure day shows up. Empty house. Car packed. And I was like, wow, it's here. And it started feeling a little different inside. Started the car, drove to Oklahoma City. And still wasn't fully departed yet because I was still in a town that I knew and a state that I've been living in for 16 years. But I still had to get in that car and leave. And that's what it took. But it jumped on me so quickly that by the time it got there, all the preparation, everything, it was done. But I still had to get in that car and drive. It's a choice. I could have easily found another place and stayed. I did not. I want to tell you what getting in the car actually looked like. Not the version that looks and sounds brave, the real version. I got in my car and I left Tulsa. And I drove to Oklahoma City first, spent some time with family, have a little bit of familiarity still before the unfamiliar sets in. Stayed there a few days. Then I left for Albuquerque. The total drive was too far. I didn't want to put my dog through it and just made sense to break it up instead of, driving 16, 17 hours straight. And Kirby rode shotgun the whole way. So breaking it up just made sense. And then August 1st, I left Albuquerque and I drove into Cane Beds, Arizona. And the whole time, the voice was there. No longer am I in Oklahoma. No longer am I in the familiar. I am in uncharted territory. And that voice is running the logistics. What did I forget? What comes next? How does this work? It wasn't dramatic fear, just the constant hum of the unknown doing exactly what the unknown does, reminding you that you do not have the answers yet. And here's what I kept coming back to on that drive. The answers were not going to come from the road. They were not going to come from thinking harder or planning more carefully or finding the right podcast or audiobook to listen to while I drive. They were simply going to come from arriving, from getting there, setting up, waking up in the new place, and starting to live in it. The clarity does not come before the arrival. It comes from being there. So as I'm driving, the landscape starts changing, right? Not just externally, internally, but externally is what was starting to build it, right? Start getting into the desert area, start getting into the mountains, start getting into Jacob's Lake, the forest area as I get really close. The red rocks starting to appear. You know, Kirby's sitting right next to me and we're making stops, we're taking breaks, doing everything we need to do. And it just keeps building and it just keeps building. And everything was just foreign. I couldn't find the right podcast to listen to. I tried audiobooks. I usually listen to audiobooks while I drive. And I just couldn't. No, I could not listen to it. There was times I needed complete silence. And there was other times that I needed music to the point to where I turned on some old 80s ballads and just singing my ass off. Just singing some Tesla love song and things of that nature. Just whatever I could do to try to soften the noise inside. And then when I pulled into Cane Beds and my host was waiting for me, I'm staying at an Airbnb here. I'm going to be here a couple months. And then I've got a couple other places for about 4 to 6 more months. And I pulled up, told me where to park. And I sat there in my car for about probably, it felt a lot longer. It was probably 30 seconds, 40 seconds. And I finally looked up and I looked at the place. I was like, this is where we are now. This is what we're doing. I want to tell you about the morning of August 1st. Not this August 1st specifically. The date itself. And for those of you who have been with me and following, you probably already know where I'm going. For those that don't, here's a little bit of the story, and also thank you for being here. 4 years ago to the day on August 1st, in my place in Tulsa, I woke up, I walked downstairs, and I cleaned out my kitchen. And I made a decision that I am still living inside of to this day. And this August 1st, I woke up and I drove in and I arrived in Cane Beds, Arizona, in a place I had never been, starting something that I had never done. Same date, 4 years apart. And what I understood sitting in the silence on that first morning here is that both of those August 1st had the same thing in common. Not a plan, not a guarantee, and definitely not certainty that anything's going to work. Just a decision to get in the car. Whatever the car was, whatever the threshold looked like, the mechanism is identical. Stop waiting. Stop preparing to be ready. Get in and go. And trust that the clarity, the direction, the right next step will arrive. And it will arrive after you are already moving. And the funny thing is, the date didn't hit me right off the bat. It didn't even register. After every morning, after I journal, I throw it in to a couple different programs that I use. And I have it just do a breakdown for me. So it keeps an arc of my journaling. Kind of, is there a rhythm to it? Does it meet what happened the day before? What's the trail that it traverses, if you will? Breaks it down a little bit for me. It knows all my criteria and all that kind of stuff. So anyhow, as I'm reading the breakdown from that morning, it said 4 years ago to the day. And it just stopped me in my tracks. Like, I didn't plan it. And again, for those of you who have watched and followed and seen the episode where I talked about June 10th, 1990 is when I went to treatment when I was 19 years old and I was sober for the very first time. And June 10th, 2026 is when I ended up putting in my resignation at work. Didn't plan either date. Didn't plan these two dates to match. It is just so weird how the universe does this. And God has a plan. You just trust it, you feel it, and you go. You get in the car. Another quick step away. What date is going to matter 4 years from now because of a decision that you made today? You probably cannot answer that yet, but I can tell you this. It is not going to matter because you planned it perfectly. It is going to matter because you got in the car. Whatever your car is, whatever your August 1st looks like, the mechanism is always the same. Stop waiting, get in, and go. So, what does this build? Every time you cross a threshold, every time you do the thing, and every time you're doing it while that voice is still running, while the nerves are still present, strong, while that not knowing is still loudly there, you build something. And it's not exactly confidence. And it's definitely not the absence of fear. It's the muscle of going, of doing. The lived knowledge stored somewhere deeper than the mind that says, I have been here before. I felt exactly like this before. And I crossed it. And that knowledge, not the intellectual version, the heartfelt version, the one that's built from evidence. That knowledge, that evidence is what helps make the next threshold just slightly less impossible to cross. Not easier, not comfortable, but possible. And possible is all you need to get in the car. And the mornings here, they're starting to get their footing. I've got a little bit of the lay of the land. I'm getting a little bit more comfortable with my surroundings. I finally have everything unpacked and put to where I want it. And even though I'm eating exactly the same way that I was in Tulsa, my diet, I got right back on track, eating the same thing, waking up the same, doing all the things. The silence is different from the silence in Tulsa. The foreignness, the unrecognizable feeling inside is so unknown. And just a little bit of that, if you've lived in a place for X amount of time, you probably know how to walk around in the dark. Right? I'm learning all that over. How many steps are on the staircase? All these little things that you just take for granted a little bit, that it's muscle memory. I have none of it. And then you take that to, I am now in a place I have never been. I am building myself and my business and my brand. And I have nothing around me that's familiar. That's exactly what it felt like the very first time I ever sat down and did one of these. It's definitely what I felt like the very first time that I went to the Gypsy and had a short story to perform for an open mic night in front of a bunch of strangers. That feeling is not foreign. The more you do it, it just becomes a little bit easier the next time. And then you just start stacking them. And that's where I'm at. And just to give one example from this morning, my alarm goes off at 4 a.m. and turn it off. And I lay there a second. I'm like, I don't need to do this. I don't need to get up at 4 anymore. I don't have, my regular work days, blah, blah, blah. I've got a different structure. I'm building it myself. I can go to 5. Instantly, a voice came inside of me. You'll still be tired at 5. And if you move it to 6, you'll be tired at 6. Basically saying that there's always going to be a reason to not do it. Once you start walking through those moments, and I ended up getting up and no, I'm not changing. But once you start stepping through those moments, they just become so much easier to never go back on yourself on them again. All right. So we're at the part of the episode where I always like to bring up the truths. And the truths are what hit and resonate with me a little bit deeper as I'm building and writing out the podcast episode. And these are the truths that came up to me during this. I hope they hit with you. If you have some truths that you want to share with me, please do so. I will absolutely listen to them, go back through some reflections on it, and give you some feedback on those truths. Here are mine. I hope they sit well with you. There's a car that you have not gotten into yet. And you know what it is. And you have been waiting to feel ready, to feel certain, to feel like the timing is right, to feel like you have the answers, and to feel like that voice is going to stop before you go. It is not going to stop. The nerves are going to be there. The not knowing is going to be there. The voice asking if you are sure is going to be there. Every time, at every threshold, for everyone. And that is not a sign that you are not ready. No, that is a sign that you are actually sitting right in front of something very, very real. And the only way through it is the same way that it has always been. Get in the car. Start the drive. Trust that the clarity comes from being on the road and being there, not from standing in the driveway, planning the route one more time. Get in the car. The rest follows from that. And the thought process of navigating a new route. Think about a boat in a harbor. You can plan that trip. You can be the captain and you can scale it out. And this is how I'm going to get to that island. This is exactly the right wind, storms. That boat doesn't know the path until it starts going. And it definitely doesn't know the full path until it gets there and it starts seeing it. And then it'll see the next one. Same thing in life. All right. So now we're coming to the end of the episode where I have a few reflection questions that I sat and reflected with myself. I would love for you to sit with them. Give me your feedback. If you find some questions that you would like me to sit with and reflect on, please send them to me. I would absolutely sit with them and give you feedback from what came up from my reflections. Here are mine. I hope they sit with you very well. What is the car that I have not gotten into yet? What threshold have I crossed that felt impossible at the time before I crossed it? What am I waiting for? And is that thing actually going to arrive before I go? What would change if I get in the car today? Every threshold feels the same from the inside. The muscle of going is built by going. Get in the car. The rest follows. Thank you again for being here. If this resonated with you, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button for me. Helps the channel, helps us grow. It just helps us so much. Also, please share it. Bring others in. Bring others on the journey, in the conversation. Let them join the community with us. Let's grow together. You are the leader that this work is building. Keep showing up for yourself. Everything else will follow. This is This Tree in Me. I am Corey J. Riggs. I love you all. Be blessed.